Last week, we talked with Dr. Shawn Baker about different aspects of the carnivore diet and the quality of meat raised on pasture versus raised indoors. This week, we explore the impact of modern food sourcing on humans. Is seasoning meat yay or nay? And how do carnivores take a poop? That's coming up next on the Nutrition Heretic Podcast.
So I'm sure you've heard that as you age, it gets harder to lose weight. Well, that's total bull because my friends Laura and Veronica Chows, they can prove it. They're a mother-daughter duo, and they've lost 125 pounds between the two of them at ages 50 and 20. And they've kept it off for over 2 years without starvation, deprivation, or hunger. So now you can learn their system and a whole lot more with a free 10-day trial to their online membership. They'll give you the diet, the recipes, classes, and more. Sign up today at nutritionheretic.com/utmost-diet.
Fat is bad for you.
I just pop a pill and I'm fine.
Meat is murder.
It's time for bad food punishment. It's time for real nourishment. It's time for the Nutrition Heretic.
The following program is provided as information only and may not be construed as medical or health advice. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. No action or inaction should be taken solely on the basis of the information provided here. Please consult with a licensed healthcare professional or doctor on any matter relating to your health and well-being.
You know, when we talk about the issues that people are having with vegetables, we talked about the gas and the bloating. In some people, it shows up on their skin. You know, it can be contributing to just all those diseases you just mentioned, right? And those all appear to vanish when people adopt the carnivore diet. Now, this is a theory that I've been working on, and tell me what if you've encountered this, if you feel that there's anything plausible in it. In addition to the animals, you say eating down the grass and converting the amino acids into a form that humans can consume. I've actually looked at this in recent years as well at that when the animals are eating these grasses, for example, that they're actually converting them into almost like the theory behind vaccines, which is that they're converting it into a form that the human can now communicate with their local environment. Because, of all the changes that we talked about that have happened over millennia, it's really just in the last 100 years, in addition to the invention of Crisco and, the corn oil and all this, it's really just in that last 100 years where people stopped consuming food from their backyard. So now instead of getting meat and milk from, one animal, we're getting it from like thousands of animals at one time. Instead of getting eggs from our locale where the chickens are, eating the stuff that's growing naturally, the eggs are being shipped from 100 miles away. Do you feel that there's any relationship with how humans have, been reacting to food more and more?
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. I think that, animals, whatever kind of animal is going to evolve where its location is, whatever is in its environment. That's how these things evolve, and when you think about it in humans, when it got cold, when the ice age hit, their environment changed, they had to evolve. And so you adapt to your local surroundings or you move or whatever. So, certainly the fact that in the last 100 years, just mass transport, the shipping of food all over the world, the fact that I can buy fresh strawberries in January in Canada, that those things are unnatural to the human experience, right? So, yes, I do think there's something there. How much of an impact it causes is unclear to me. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, at the same time, we have to start to realize we got a lot of people to feed. We can't all have a chicken in our front yard and a cow in the backyard. We just can't do it. It's not going to happen. There may be a few people that can do it, but to feed, 9 billion, 10 billion people, whatever we end up with in the next 50 years, that is unfortunately not going to be the answer. We have to face the reality is there has to be a way to feed all these human beings. Not every one of us can be farmers. Not every one of us can go out and hunt for our food. It's just not practical. So we have to at some point say, what is the realistic way? How do we, we have to talk about economies of scale. We have to talk about efficiency. That has to be part of the equation. I mean, it'd be nice if, we could magically say, everyone has 50 acres to live on, and we have all the animals to feed us and the berries that we can pick. But that time has passed. Maybe on another planet, maybe when we colonize Mars, we can do that. But for now, we have to figure out, well, how do we most maximize and efficiently do this with the least harm to the planet, with the most nutrition? And that's the challenge there. And so I think your point is valid. And I think, for those people that are really concerned about that, if you have the ability to put a cow in your backyard and a pig in your backyard and have a blackberry bush, awesome. That's great if you can do it. But most people are not going to be able to do that. Right. So I'm more concerned about what do we do with the mass of humanity here. And so, and equally, there are people that, on the vegan side, I think everybody in the world should eat a bunch of grains and beans and legumes, and we're all going to be happy. And I don't think that's a solution either. I think we have to figure out how we incorporate animals into the human diet and how to do it at scale and how to do it without destroying the world.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah. And when I said that, I didn't mean that each person should have one, but, at least in the places where I've lived, there's usually within 50 miles or so, somebody who has taken it upon themselves to raise those local animals. And it's a lot of getting to know your farmer kind of thing.
No, I agree. I agree with that. And I agree with that totally. And I think that's a good situation. I think we should encourage that where possible, but it's still,
well, they're cutting back on the farm bill for 2019. So good luck with that.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, that's a problem. The problem is, again, the economy of scale makes it really difficult because, if you have a farm with 10 cows, you're gonna yield less product than if you have a farm with 100 cows. I mean, you're gonna require more resources per cow. You're gonna require more. It's just the way it works. I mean, we don't buy handmade cars anymore, because it's just so expensive and so resource intensive. But so we buy cows that come from not cows. You buy cars that come from a factory that are mass produced just because there's so many people. And so, I mean, unfortunately, that's the reality of the world. And so we have to kind of figure out how do we reconcile ourselves with that.
So I just want to touch on a couple of things that when I talk to people about the carnivore diet, there's a couple of things that, there's that knee-jerk reaction like we talked about. First of all, actually, before I get into that, I want to ask you, do you season your meat? Because I've seen this, we talked about being dogmatic or not. I've seen people say, I made something with garlic and hot sauce and get reamed for, because the other person doesn't even use salt. Where do you stand on flavoring the meat? And do you only eat beef? Are you also eating, there's other people talking about eating duck and chicken?
I eat mostly meat because I like it the most. It's the most satisfying. Most people that do this long term just kind of gravitate towards red meat and beef in particular, sometimes lamb. I think that sort of more closely matches what we probably did growing up as humans. But I'll eat fish, I'll eat shrimp, I'll eat some pork every once in a while, I'll eat some chicken once in a while, not that often. I'll even have a little bit of dairy here and there. I like salt on my meat, and that's what I typically do, but I'm not at all opposed to throwing some garlic on there or something spice. But the only caveat to that is, if you have a particular health condition and those things bother you, then you just have to reconcile yourself to that. But if it makes the meat more, again, I don't necessarily think that all plants are evil and bad. I think it's been misconstrued. I think that they can be for certain people, and I think there's problems. I mean, we have this sort of, fruits and vegetables are completely benign and inert, and all they do is provide goodness. And I would say, no, there's oxalates and salicylates and, phytates and a whole list of chemicals that people have problems with that are in there. And some people tolerate them well, some people don't. So we just have to be cognizant of that fact. But so if you want to, if spicing your meat makes it more pleasurable for you and it makes it more sustainable, I'm all for that. I tell people, do what works for you. And, even if you want to throw some mushrooms on there or some onions in there, that is fine for you if it works for you. Now, for many people, it just doesn't work. And I do think, when you adopt this diet, there should be a period of time where you kind of minimize all the variables, particularly if you're trying to solve a health problem. You need to get down to this elimination phase. And then you say, okay, I've done beef and water or whatever for 3 months. I'm at a baseline, and now let me add this back in and see how I tolerate that. And you'll either tolerate it or you won't, and you'll get an answer with that. Not everybody needs to do that. I think that's more for people that are sick. Now, some people, it's kind of funny because most people, when they first started doing this diet, the people that sort of kind of became this community were all these people that were really, really sick and they were desperate. I mean, who the hell is going to eat only meat unless you're friggin' desperate, right?
Right.
I mean, these are the people that first did this, and they solved their health problems, and then they kind of made a little community, and then I kind of got kind of involved myself in that community, and then I started seeing the tremendous benefits and the potential here. Then I got to promoting this, and so now I'm kind of where I'm at now. But I think the funny thing now is we're seeing a lot of athletes that have taken it upon themselves to try this diet out, probably because I've had pretty good success as an athlete with it. And so now we're seeing a lot of people that are actually improving their athletic performance quite a bit, with this. And I think there's some reasons, for that. I mean, I think better protein quality, heme iron, there's creatine in there, there's carnitine, carnosine. It's not inflammatory. It improves recovery. There's less oxidative stress. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I think athletic performance improves on this diet. And so it's been a really interesting sort of dichotomy of people. There's people that are really sick that really need to be strict, and there's other people that are doing it for whatever reasons, lose a little bit of weight, but better athletically, try out a crazy diet and say, hey, I'm a cool carnivore, I mean, there people are going to do that. There's no doubt about it. But I think, I think here, and I think I kind of covered this a little bit, but I think the majority of people that do this, they will find that it works really well, and they'll end up kind of staying pseudo carnivorish, kind of carnivorish, dipping in and out, maybe spending a month here and there, eating most of their food from meat, and then just using plants as seasonings, as things to increase the enjoyment around meals. You can even argue that glucose can be used in a drug-like effect. You can use it for performance, and so I think that's where I think once you understand that in my view, meat is human nutrition. If I were to ask you what does a zebra eat, you'd say, grass. And if I'd say, what does an elephant eat? It eats trees and grass. And if I'd say, what does a lion eat? You'd say he'd eat the zebras. And I'd say, what do humans eat? And you'd say Twinkies, Ho-Hos, Doritos, Gatorade, because it's whatever's available to us, right? But I mean, what do we actually, what did we eat 50,000 years ago when we didn't have all this variety, and we didn't have food companies making hyper-palatable food and selling us this stuff and targeting us and, kind of shoving it down our throat and advertising 24/7. What did we eat back then? I would say that, a human being can thrive on just meat, and I think that's probably human nutrition. I think the rest of the stuff is more kind of, it's just kind of bonus material. And sometimes it's bothers, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good.
Right. Yeah. And we definitely, when it comes to pets and, raising animals, I have 2 goats, and people are much more fussy about what they will feed their animals than what they are, they, like you said, we're much more accepting that the human animal can digest anything. Whereas, I've got cats, I've got goats, I've got chickens, like each of those animals, they each require something very different. And I wouldn't think to give any of them, and they know better, luckily, to, eat something that's not right for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is the thing, if you put an animal in the wild, I mean, they're generally not going to have chronic disease. I mean, they might get injured, they might get an infection or something like that, but they're not going to have heart disease, or typically not going to have cancer. They're not going to have diabetes. They're going to eat what's designed for them, what's appropriate. And no one is standing there with a table saying, this is a recommended daily allowance of this nutrient. They don't need a calculator to eat. No one gives them a menu. I don't give my dogs a menu and say, what would you like to eat today? I mean, I give them the same old slop every day, which is, I just give them a bunch of meat, is what my dogs eat. And they're happy as can be, they're healthy as can be, and they don't have to think about it. And I think that is how nutrition should be. It's just, I don't think, think about it. You and I breathe the same air every day. I mean, maybe your air in Hawaii is nicer than my air, but I mean, I don't sit there and think I need to have multicolored air or different flavored air to breathe every day. It's just normal. It's a normal function. And I think nutrition should be that way, or can be that way. Now we there's a lot of cultural and social stuff and entertainment stuff that's around nutrition. We socialize around that and that sort of stuff, and that's a different issue. But just from a nutrition standpoint, it should be something we don't need to think about. We should eat when we're hungry. You think about it. What other animal sits there with a stopwatch and says, "Oh, I'm intermittent fasting. I can't eat until, X amount of hours." They just eat when they're hungry, and when they're not hungry, they don't eat. And I think that is how animals are designed, and human beings, in my view, are still animals. And I think we can find something that's very simple. And that's what happens with a carnivore diet. Most people just, they eat a bunch of meat till they're full, and then they don't eat again till they're full again. And it works really, really well. And I think that is very powerful, and it's very freeing for people, because a lot of people say it's so restrictive, but at the same time, these people all of a sudden find out that I don't have to plan meals. I don't have to calculate. I don't have to obsess about this and that detail. I just eat when I'm hungry, and I enjoy the food. Most people enjoy a nicely cooked steak. And so it becomes almost very freeing for a lot of people. It's kind of funny. You get this paradoxical sense of freedom from eating this basically one food, which is very interesting.
Well, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to plan, like you were saying. You just, as long as you have it on supply, just throw it in a frying pan or in the grill, whatever, and you're done, right? So before I let you go, just a couple of questions that come up for people is, one, pooping.
Yeah.
How, what's going on there? I've heard everything from I got constipated, which is what happened to me when I tried it. I might go back and try it again, because it's actually not very different from several other, diets. Well, obviously, the probably most notorious one would have been Atkins, at least the early stages of Atkins. I've heard everything from constipation to runny diarrhea.
Yeah, those are all common. So let's talk about a little bit digestive function. So one thing we know, and we know that in the literature, looking at patients that have ileostomy. So patients that have an ileostomy are patients that have had their colon removed, and so they have a little pouch. So their small intestine is connected to a pouch instead of a colon. And so when we watch what happens to those people, when they digest meat, it is almost completely digested. Only a small amount of a little bit of liquid comes out. And so what happens is you're used to these big sort of fibrous bowel movements, because that material is undigestible and it just kind of passes through us. And so we don't have that anymore. So what happens is, instead of true constipation means you're full of material, but you can't get rid of it.
Right.
Most people they just don't produce anything. And so a lot of people, it takes them 3, 4, 5 days a week, maybe sometimes 10 days before they have their first bowel movement. It's just because there's no material anymore to get rid of. There's nothing you're wasting. You're absorbing all that nutrition rather than, flushing it down the toilet. And so that's what happens initially for many people. That's a misconception for most people have. Now, conversely, there are people that will find that they have loose bowel movements, because, again, like I talked about, what goes into the colon now, instead of this semi-solid fibrous mass, is now all liquid going into the colon from the small intestine. And so the job of the colon, or one of the jobs of the colon, is to reabsorb fluid and electrolytes. Well, if it's been used to seeing fibrous stools for 20 years, there's not as much fluid it has to deal with, relatively. So it's not very efficient at that. Think about it. When a baby is born, it's breastfeeding, or getting formula sometimes, it has, formed stools, it has semi-solid stools, because the colon is reabsorbing some of the fluid, even though they're on 100% liquid diet. And so what happens is the colon is still seeing 100% liquid diet now, and it just takes a while for that sort of mechanism to kind of wind back up. It's like an athlete that's out of shape, that's been sitting on the couch for 30 years, and you go, hey, let's go run a marathon now. He's not going to be able to do it right away. He's got to get back that capacity. So it takes people, when I'm talking about loose stools or diarrhea, it takes people, a couple weeks to even a little longer for that to kind of settle down. That's generally the case. And now there's certain foods tend to cause the issues. Some people will find that eating a little more fat in the diet will help move the bowels a little better.
Right.
Some people will find that things like eggs or pork tends to make them have a little more diarrhea. Sometimes, back to seasoning, some people will find that seasoning and spices will precipitate a bout of runny stools or diarrhea. And so I've seen that with myself. I'll go out to eat at a restaurant and they'll put a bunch of spice in there, and the next day I'm like, oh man,
Right.
it didn't work too well. But that's what's going on. It's not that you're not designed for it, because humans are really well designed to absorb meat. It's just, if you haven't been doing it without fiber for decades, it just takes time to adjust to that.
Right. Yeah, because I was definitely, I really feel like for me it was actual constipation, because I was also not like letting go of water, and I was getting waterlogged. I could feel my stomach just like filling up. Like I would be extremely thirsty, but then on top of it, I just felt waterlogged, and my legs got very heavy with water. And as soon as I ate a little something, I forget, I think it was pumpkin. then all of a sudden it was like everything just came out. All the water just just moved. So something's going on there.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there's certainly, like, I don't know if you've been on a ketogenic diet before, but there's certainly some fluid and electrolyte shifts that occur, when you drop the carbs out of your diet.
Right.
So you have to manage your electrolytes a little bit. Those things happen. There are people, again, that don't have a great capacity to digest meat, particularly in the upper GI system, because their stomach acid production has decreased, over time. We often consider that a natural consequence of aging. I'm not sure. I think that's probably a consequence of probably disease, and I don't think it's necessarily aging, because I think there's people that maintain that very well throughout their life, and so those things can be a problem. Some people have to add supplements like hydrochloric acid supplements, like betaine hydrochloride, lipases, or even bile supplements. Those things sometimes have to be done initially for people that have a difficult time digesting meat. I think if you can't well digest meat, then there's a problem with your digestive system. I mean, that's what I think. I think we're designed to do that, and you should be able to do that well. But I think many people have, it's kind of interesting. If you look at the group, the Paleo Medicina group, who's done some of the research around this carnivore diet out in Hungary, where they're dealing with autoimmune diseases and some of the other things. What they're seeing is about 80% to 90% of the healthy normal population have some level of gut dysfunction with regard to gut permeability. Just walking around there, even though they feel normal and they're healthy, they still have some degree of dysfunction. And so, most of it's subclinical. We don't notice it. I mean, like when I changed my diet, I had what I thought was normal digestive function, but then when I realized it got so much better that maybe it wasn't normal. We kind of accept suboptimal as normal, because it's so common.
Exactly.
But I think when you discover, wow, the things I thought were normal, like, when you get older, you kind of expect to have some achy joints and creaky knees and a little bit sore back. And I was developing that stuff. I'm in my 50s now, and now I'm dunking basketballs and doing backflips and breaking world records on the rowing machine and deadlifting 500 pounds for reps and stuff like that. And I don't hurt at all. I have no joint pain, none of that stuff. It went away. So what I had normally accepted as this is normal aging, and then when that all went away, I'm like, wait a minute. This is very different. Now I get to play like I'm 20 years old again, which is really cool. That's one thing. That's one of the reasons so many people like this diet, because they experience that and they're like, wait a minute, this is the best I've felt in 3 or 4 decades. And so it's interesting.
This is actually a problem I've been having with the medical industry, is that it's completely designed to expect the human body to fail. And it's focused on the shortcomings of the human, or what it would like to see as the shortcomings of the human body, as opposed to the rule number 1 that you learn in medical school, which is homeostasis, that your body's always trying to balance things out, and if you're not putting in the right stuff, it's not going to balance out in the direction you want it to. So it's gotta, you're going to have to pay for it somewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunately, we have kind of, as a healthcare system, we have, I mean, it's kind of because we've got so many sick people now, and we've got such a, whether it's diet, whether it's environment, we have such a environment that produces sick people.
Yeah. And
I don't think we're well trained to deal with that. We don't know how to fix that. We don't know what the causes are. And so medicine really is all about symptom management, it's disease management, it's putting on expensive Band-Aids. When I was doing joint replacements on people, I made their knee arthritis feel better, but I didn't fix the problem. I mean, the next year they'd be back with their other knee because they still had the disease. They still had the metabolic disease, which manifests itself in the joints as arthritis. And so because I didn't fix the disease, they got another expensive bandage. And, they were happy, they felt better, they weren't as much pain. But what I should have been doing is saying, let's fix the ongoing problem, so you don't need all these damn surgeries.
Yes.
You don't need all this stuff. And so that is the problem, that most physicians, they don't have they don't know. I mean, they don't step back and look at the big picture. They're so compartmentalized, and we've got specialists. We've got left ear specialists and right eyeball specialists. I mean, it's gotten crazy.
No
one looks back at that stuff. And the poor GPs, guys, I mean, they're so overwhelmed that they've got 5 minutes to spend with their patients.
Exactly.
So it's really a system that's designed to not produce. It's designed to produce very average health in a lot of people. It avoids some complete disasters and can deal with disasters and keep people alive, but it does not promote health. And I think that's a big distinction. You don't go to the doctor to get healthy. You go there to not become acutely dead. I mean, I think that's I mean, that is probably what happens. And unfortunately, there's a lot of money in that system. There's a lot of money tied up in that. There's a lot of people profiting from people being sick. And, it sounds a bit cynical and jaded to do that. But I was in that system for many, many years.
Oh, yeah.
And it's frustrating. It really is frustrating as a physician that you're like, you're making your career off of a bunch of sick people, and you're trying to help them, honestly, but at the same time, you're not doing what you should do, in my view. I think we should not have. My goal is for no people to ever have to see a doctor.
Right.
I mean, that would be a great goal. I mean, that would be totally, unless there's some acute trauma or they're having a
right,
baby,
exactly.
Like
well,
that.
and that's what it used to be, right? Before corn oil,
right,
cardiologists only saw people,
right. Right. I mean, that's what
rarely.
it used to be. And again, can we get back there? I'm certainly hopeful, but I'm also realistic about it. I mean, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of, there's a lot of advertising.
Yeah. Well, somebody was telling me not that long ago about, I think it was the book Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, where he discusses, I believe it was Henry Ford. Not Henry Ford, Rockefeller. It was John D. Rockefeller wanting to make healthcare the next, big moneymaker, and that's kind of where our system was the foundations of our system. Apparently, go back to that. How do we scare people into doing what we want?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you look at, I looked at the federal lobbying statistics, I think from last year, and it was like the number one federal lobbying money comes overwhelmingly, like triple anybody else was the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, they kick in just tons of money, and then right behind that was the health insurance industry, and so and then so it's like there's a lot of money in this stuff, and so unfortunately for you and I and most of us out there just trying to make it through life, we've got some hurdles in our way. And,
for sure.
I think the nice thing, people like, you're getting some messages out there. I think social media is really disrupting this. I really do. I think people are getting their information from news sources. I like the term the democratization of medicine, because there's a lot of people that are coming up here and saying, and this carnivore movement is in part of that, is they're saying, wait a minute, I got better when I did this instead of what they told me. And then all of a sudden you've got now 10 people, now 100, now thousands of people all singing from the same song sheet. And some people will say, it's mass cyanosis, it's placebo effect, but I think there's something there. And I think there's some gold to be mined in that sort of framework. And I think people should use social media as a way to really advance our knowledge and advance, the health of humanity. And I think we're getting there. Well,
I see some people saying, like, don't get your information from the internet. And on the one hand, I get it. On the other hand, I'm saying, well, you know what? If the standard practice worked and doctors listened more to the needs of their patients, people would not need to turn to the internet to get this information.
Well, I mean, the market is going to dictate. Ultimately, people want results, and you're going to go wherever you get results. And totally. You don't need. You can tell if you're sick. I mean, in many cases. I mean, if you're depressed and you're overweight and obese and everything hurts, you can tell that. And then when that goes away, you're like, wait a minute, I did this and it went away. I'm better. I mean, that doesn't take randomized control trials and millions of dollars of research money to do that. I mean, the average person, I think it's important for us to do some research and do that stuff and spend the money there. But I think the most important research study is the one you do on yourself. And I think that's very important. You should empower yourself to do that and find out what works for you. Yeah.
And that's a huge problem too, because I do know way too many physicians of all strata, who they rely on the studies, but they don't rely on their own patient population. So they don't hear that these patients are saying, hey, doc, I tried this thing and I'm getting better. Instead, they're like, well, there was a study that said that's bad for you, so you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, that is a shame. It
is backwards. Well, I do have other questions for you, but I know that you've got to go. I've also got to go. Thank you so much, Shawn Baker. You have a book coming out.
I do, yeah. It's the Carnivore Diet. Simple. It should be out. I know it's available for pre-order on Amazon and awesome. I think Barnes and Noble. So you can just look up Carnivore Diet, Shawn Baker, MD. I'm pretty active on Twitter and Instagram. I think Twitter, it's S Baker MD. On Instagram, it's Shawn, SHAWN, BAKER 1967. I've got a nice website called meatheals.com where we have people that are submitting their pretty darn impressive stories about going on a carnivorous diet and reversing a lot of disease, which I think is worth people looking at and might inspire people to try it.
I may try this again. Actually, I am going to try it again because I feel like it's got something in there for me.
Well, try it. I would say, Adrian, give it minimum 30 days.
God.
And preferably,
Okay.
Preferably if you could do it for 60 to 90 days, that would be a fair test of it. And then if it doesn't work, then say it's not worth it for me. But I think it's something you can use as a tool in your tool chest.
For sure.
But I mean, to be fair, I think you need to give it, a little bit longer time and you need to adapt. And if you need any specifics, just hit me up, send me an email or something like that. Awesome. I'm always happy to do that. I'm doing, I do some consultations for people. I've got a lot of people that have specific issues. And so I have consultation stuff that people can hook up with me on that stuff. And I'm trying to think what else. So that is kind of where I'm at these days. We've got the World Carnivore Tribe on Facebook. We've got a little over 20, I think we're at 21,000 people right now. We started in January. We already got 20,000 plus, and we're growing by 100 plus people every single day. More and more people doing it. There's a good community that supports people for that. And then we've got the vegan recovery group for ex-vegans.
I know I would tell people about, the recovering vegans that I work with, and they're like, you make it sound like it's a drug group. And I'm like, but it's true. It's like, that's what they're trying to, get their health back from.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I think do what works for you is the ultimate message here. And I think a carnivorous diet might be, not guaranteed, but might be the solution for you. And I think it's worth trying it. If nothing else has worked and you're willing to do it. Like I said, you get to eat a bunch of wonderful steaks. And, I think most people are pretty happy to sign up for that. And I think women in particular have been so brainwashed to eat the salad with the dressing on the side and the skinny piece of chicken breast and sit there and be completely unsatisfied and bloated. And I don't think that's a way to spend your life, And so I think women, even more so than men, probably need to up their protein and up their meat intake, in my view.
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to get a French doctor, Alain Delaboux, on the show, and I don't think he understands what a podcast is. The French don't really do a lot of this stuff. But he designed a diet back in the 80s that was, kind of probably where a lot of your adherents, that go off the diet eventually end up, which is, it's like he focuses on cholesterol for the breakfast with just a tiny bit of, like you say, bread or some other kind of grain. And then lunch is a half a pound of meat or, red meat usually, with, a small amount of a starch, like a potato, like more of a vegetable type starch. And then he has a little like nuts and fruit for like your tea time afternoon snack. And then for dinner, he's like, eat all the fish and chicken you want with like a tablespoon of salad. So it's, it's not, it kind of points to this not being that radical. Especially because back in those days, particularly, Europeans were not on board with, kind of what we look at as these extreme diets. But he was kind of going back to, how do the French really eat? What was, before people had all these diseases, how were people eating? And he also has reversed numerous, helped people reverse numerous, health issues and, look younger, lose weight at 80 years old that they hadn't been able to lose all their lives and stuff like that. So, there's definitely a place and, to look at these types of diets.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities there, and I think if it works, it works. That's great. I don't think we should discount anything that actually gets results, and I think that's ultimately what we're after. Right. I just look at when I like ketogenic diets and people talking about the benefits of that, and I say, well, how would ancient man, prehistoric man, have been in ketosis? And I look around and I see a bunch of mammoth bones, and I'm saying, aha.
Yeah, exactly.
They hate these big fatty animals, and that's how they did it. So, I mean, again, what was realistically done? I mean, they weren't eating Quest bars and they weren't sucking down MCT oil, I can tell you that. Right. Or butter coffee. I mean, that wasn't happening. So, I mean, you go like that. Well, if it's beneficial and there's some reason to think that, then maybe they did that, and if fasting is beneficial, if there's this whole thing about autophagy, well, what how would a man likely have fasted? Would he have sat there with a stopwatch, or would he have gorged himself on a bunch of big mammoth meat and then not eaten for a day because he was full? I mean,
Right.
that to me makes a reasonable way of how that would have been done. But
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, well,
we could talk forever, I can tell.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a part 2 down the road, maybe after the book's out or something like that.
I think this might be a 2-part as it is.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, his name is Shawn Baker. That's SHAWN-Baker.com. Ironically, his last name is Baker. So I'm sure you hear that all the time. Thank you so much for your time. The book, The Carnivore Diet, look for it on Amazon.com. And we'll talk to you later.
The Nutrition Heretic Podcast is a production of Savor the Journey, LLC. Our audio editor is Nicola Popovich. Our podcast manager is Crystal McLean. And our operations manager is Michelle Med. I'm your host, Adrian Hugh, the Nutrition Heretic. You can find us at the new and improved nutritionheretic.com, where you can download the Nutrition Heretic's free shit list of 7 health foods to avoid like the plague. You can also listen to previous episodes at nutritionheretic.com/podcast. Be sure to like us on social media for updates. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/nutritionheretic and on Twitter @NutriHeretic. Contact us with show ideas, questions, or if you want to be a guest. And don't forget to rate our podcast on iTunes and Stitcher.